Marty, you in here? Marty. You in here, Marty?
Yeah, that's what that's all. But we'll wait till the time to learn and then we'll get together next week.
Marty, you in here yet? Is that you, Marty?
Hey, Doug, it is. How are you?
Doing good. Hey, I'm jumping in here just to let you know that you can just stay in and then you're muted, but as soon as they vote you in for coming in, then they'll unmute you and you'll just be live in there.
And then I just
All right.
listen? Okay,
You
thank
just
you.
well, you just listen, and then when you want to talk, you can talk, and they'll hear you, and you'll hear them.
Sounds good. Thank you, Doug.
Alrighty, bye.
Bye.
I call this meeting to order. I call this meeting of the Montgomery County Public School Board to order at 7 p.m. on Tuesday, August 1st. As you are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. As we begin tonight's meeting, I ask those in the audience to please silence your cell phones, because the cell phone notifications can be distracting to others in the audience and to the board up here as we do our business. All right, first item, adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Drake, will you please call roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass? Yes. Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
6 in favor.
Motion carries. Tonight, Marty Graham has asked to participate in tonight's meeting electronically as she is out of town. Do I have a motion to approve Ms. Graham's electronic participation?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Drake, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin? Yes. Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
6 in favor.
Motion carries.
And Ms. Graham is already on the line.
Okay. Marty, can you hear us okay?
I can, thank you.
Okay, great. Welcome. All right, next item on the agenda, we're going to move to honors, awards, and recognitions. We have the VHS Athletic State Champion Spring of 2023, and Mr. Husband is coming up to help us with those recognitions.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Superintendent, Dr. Superintendent, board members, thank you for the opportunity to recognize our VHSL Athletic State Champions from the Spring 2022-2023 season. Here to help us recognize our students are Auburn High School Athletic Director Paul Dominy, Blacksburg High School Principal Adam Simpson, Christiansburg High School Principal Shane Gwynn, Eastern Montgomery High School Athletic Director Kirk Litton. I'd like to invite them up at this time, please.
Good evening. It's very good to be back, and we thank you and really appreciate that you take the time to honor some of the excellence that our student athletes show athletically. The first group I'd like to invite up is the girls track and field team. Come on up front. Auburn this year won 2 individual and 2 team state championships this spring, along with our 6th all-sport championship, now called the National Guard Cup, in the last 7 years. I'm going to begin with the individual state champs, and first I'd like to introduce you to Casey Rosenbaum. Casey has become one of the premier distance runners in Class 1. She comfortably won the outdoor track and field individual state championship in the 3200 this past June by a full 20 seconds, and she did that as a junior. That means that we'll be looking forward to what she does this coming year as a senior. She also came in second in the 1600.
Wow, nice.
Our second individual state champion is Stacy Lewis. Stacy won the 400 at the Outdoor Track State Championship while competing in the exceptionally challenging combination of running the 400, the 800, and the 200. And those events all run consecutively with only the 300 hurdles in between them. Stacy is an all-around athlete who was also All-State for our state runner-up girls soccer team this spring. And she was a starter for our state championship volleyball team.
Wow.
And now for our team state champions, the girls outdoor track and field team. They won their 2nd consecutive state championship this spring and the 5th in the history of the program. The team used the approach of overwhelming everyone else to scoring by scoring in 11 of the 17 events. The total was enough to beat Northampton and the rest of Class 1 with a score of 70 to 66 and a half. This was the closest of the 5 state championships that we've won. It came right down to the last event, and the girls came through there to secure the state championship.
Nice.
Thank you. Now I'd like to invite the softball team up. We have a representative sampling tonight of softball athletes because it's summertime and we have a number who have actually already headed off to college. The Class 1 softball state championship almost wasn't a fair competition this year. And I say that because with senior pitcher Kirsten Fleet, Auburn's first high school All-American, and an outstanding defense, it was more a question of when they would score the one run they would need to win than whether or not they were going to win games. After winning district and region championships, they defeated Eastside 4-1 in the state quarterfinal, and then won consecutive 1-0 games in the state semifinal and final, with both runs being driven in by Avery Zuckerwar, who's here tonight. This is their third consecutive state championship, fourth overall in the program, and it would be the fifth if it hadn't been for COVID. Thank you, girls.
Good evening, school board members and Dr. Bragan. It is my honor and privilege to present to you state champions for Blacksburg High School for spring of 2023. Unfortunately, our student athletes and our coach were not able to make it this evening, but Coach Howard, our track coach, has left some comments that I'd like to read to recognize our student athletes. So the first group who won state championship this spring was the men's 4x800 meter relay. And this team was comprised of Miles Wilson, Zach Davis, Eli Sterling, and Connor Rutherford. And Coach Howard says this was the race of the century. He says our relay came from behind on the final leg run by Connor Rutherford to win by 1/100th of a second over Atlee. Connor ran the number 2 fastest 800 meters in school history, clocking a time of 1 minute and 52 seconds, which is a half mile in under 2 minutes. So that's the men's 4x800 relay state champs. And we also had individual men's 3,200 meter, which was won by Connor Rutherford. In this race, Connor was over 50 meters behind the leader with 1 lap to go in the race. Coach Howard says, if you go back and watch the video, you can't even see Connor in the frame as the leader begins his final lap. He closed in a 59-second last quarter mile to catch the leader and to set a new state meet record with a time of 9 minutes and 7 seconds. And Connor will be running on scholarship at the University of Georgia. Nice. So congratulations to them.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Bragan. Thank you for allowing us the time to recognize these well-deserving student athletes for their accomplishments this evening. Even though our lone state champion, Maddie Moles, could not be present for tonight's recognition, I wanted to take a moment to highlight her accomplishments this past spring outdoor track season. She finished the year winning her 4th consecutive state pole vault title in the 3A classification. She's won 2 indoor and 2 outdoor. She also finished as the new indoor and outdoor record holder for Christiansburg High School, with her highest mark in the pole vault being 12 feet 6 inches. She will be continuing her academic career by attending JMU and competing as a part of their indoor and outdoor track team as a Duke. So thank you to Maddie for allowing us to be part of her successful journey. And thank you all again for tonight.
Thank you.
My name is Kirk Litton, and I'm the athletic director at Eastern Montgomery High School, and I would like to have our girls come forward at this time. This is our girls soccer program. Just a little bit about this group. This past season, they finished their season 22-0. They outscored their opponents 162-3. They had Maddie Bruce was the state player of the year for the 2nd consecutive year. First teamers were Lily Underwood, Maddie Bruce, Asia McCone, Madeline Maroli, Hannah Blankenship, Logan Boone, and Nadia Hubbard. And second team was Olivia Boone. And I just want to take a second here to recognize this was the 3rd consecutive state championship for these girls. They've had a program for 5 years. and 3 straight state championships. In that 3 straight state championships, they have outscored their opponents 482 to 11. They've had 54 consecutive wins, which is a state record. And out of those 54 wins, 46 of them were shutouts. We'd also like to congratulate the other schools and the athletes from those schools who represented not just their schools, but Montgomery County. And as you've seen tonight and heard, the amount of success Montgomery County has had at the state level. And just like I say, this has been a great group, a remarkable group, and I'm going to miss them. I know the whole community will miss them, but they have represented our school so well. So well. And it was their third one was an exciting championship game, a 2-1, 5 overtime win over Auburn. Wow. So just one of the most remarkable state championship games I've seen played at that level. Thank you.
Congratulations. All right, if that is it, is that it? We're going to take a 10-minute break. We'd like to give the board an opportunity to come down and congratulate these athletes that came out tonight. So we'll take a 10-minute break and meet you guys out in the back. Thank you. All right, everyone, we'll get started up again in about 3 minutes. 3 minutes. All right, we'll get started again. Marty, are you still with us?
I'm here.
Okay, great. All right, so our next item on the agenda is public address. We welcome the opportunity to hear from students, parents, employees, and community members about education matters in this community. As a reminder, the board sets aside 30 minutes to start our public address, and we have the option to extend in 30-minute increments, which Ms. Drake will remind us of. If there are additional speakers after 90 minutes, the board will continue with their business meeting and hold one additional 30-minute session at the end of the business meeting. The clock continues through applause and disruptions, so the more disruptions there are, the few speakers who get to address the board. I'll call each speaker up by name in the order they signed up. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. The board doesn't respond to speakers during public address, and the screen will show when the speaker has 30 seconds remaining and when time is up. Please state your name and the area of the county where you live in. The first speakers are Chris Sanchez and Kimberly Williamson. So Chris Sanchez, if you are in the audience, you are up. All right, seeing no one coming up, Kimberly Williamson.
I'm Kimberly Williamson from Christiansburg. Jesus loves you. Jesus is in love with his creation, which is each one of you. Being born male or female is your birthright and your inheritance. You were not born neutral. You were not born haphazardly with random body parts or random DNA structure. You were lovingly and extravagantly crafted by a deeply and intimately loving God with the high honor of either being male or female, with all the magnificent wonders that each of these entails. God has also blessed each one of you with the inheritance of creativity and personality, discovery of and the creative expression of your likes, your dislikes, your creative passions, the joy of being you as a son or daughter of God. These things take a lifetime. Do not let anyone tell you, and do not let anyone teach to any young person that his or her personality development means they must change their body or their perception of it to become a different gender, that they were not made correctly as male or female. This is highly dishonoring to that young person and is a twisted lie that will disfigure them mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and possibly physically for the rest of their lives. But To those who have already gone down this path, God says in John 8:32, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. That truth is Jesus, as described in the Bible, and truth is what he says. What does he have to say? Genesis 1:27, so God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. Psalm 139:13-14, you made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit them together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. It is amazing to think about. Your workmanship is marvelous, and how well I know it. Song of Solomon 4:7, you're beautiful from head to toe. My dear love, beautiful beyond compare, absolutely flawless. John 3:16, this is how much God loved the world. He gave his son, his one and only son, and this is why, so that no one should come to destruction or be lost, but by believing in him, anyone can have a whole and everlasting life. Seek Jesus for your real identity today.
Thank you, Ms. Williamson. Next up is Dawn Upham, and after that, Kelly Brennan.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Brennan. My name is Don Upham. I live in Reiner. Tonight I'm quoting again from the first and primary textbook used in the schools in this land for nearly 200 years. From Genesis chapter 18 of the Bible, verse 17, just prior to the destruction of the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, the Lord Yahweh said, shall I hide from Abraham what I'm about to do? Since Abraham will surely become a great and mighty nation, and in him all the nations of the earth will be blessed. For I have chosen and known him, so that he may command his children, teach them with authority, and his household after him, to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring upon Abraham what was spoken about him. And from Deuteronomy chapter 4, beginning with verse 39, Moses shares, know therefore today and take it into your heart that the Lord, he is the Lord God in heaven above and on the earth below. There is no other. So you shall keep his statutes and his commandments, which I'm giving you today, that it may go well with you and with your children after you, and that you may live long in the land which the Lord your God is giving you for all time. And then this piece from Virginia history. Here is the declaration made by Robert Hunt upon the first landing at Cape Henry, Virginia, April 29th of 1607. We do hereby dedicate this land and ourselves to reach the people within these shores with the gospel of Jesus Christ, to raise up godly generations after us, and with these generations take the kingdom of God to all the earth. May this covenant and dedication remain to all generations as long as this earth remains, and may this land, along with England, be evangelists to the world. May all who see this cross remember what we have done here, and may those who come here to inhabit join us in this covenant and this most noble work, that the Holy Scriptures may be fulfilled. From these very shores, the gospel shall go forth not only to this new world, but to the entire world. And one more quote from the first textbook, Psalm 22, 27 through 28. All of the ends of the earth shall remember and turn to the Lord, and all the families of the nation shall worship before thee. For the kingdom is the Lord's, and he rules over the nations. And finally, Proverbs 3, 5 through 8. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean to your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord, and turn away from evil. It will be healing to your body and refreshment to your bones.
Thank you, Mr. Upham. Next up is Kelly Brennan, and after that is Corolla Haas.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Brennan, and I live in Reiner. I'm here tonight in support of MCPS, its mission, and our community, all of us together, and especially all of our kids. Indeed, that is what this undertaking is about. It is a reflection of the love and aspirations we have for our children. It is a recognition of the love and care that every child deserves and needs in order to flourish and grow into a capable, competent, responsible, and compassionate adult. Tragically, not every child in this community gets that love and care. I firmly believe that it is our collective responsibility to ensure that all our children get what they need and that our school system has the responsibility to reflect that value. As I have shared with you in the past, I am the parent of a recent graduate of an MCPS student who is also non-binary and a member of the LGBTQ plus community. And as I have said before, I am truly and deeply grateful to all those people within MCPS and beyond who helped get our kid across the stage, diploma in hand. Speaking of the stage, I am repeatedly impressed and inspired by the courage, tenacity, compassion demonstrated by the students who come before you to share a glimpse of the challenges and trauma they endure daily within MCPS and within larger society because of their sense of self. From my own experience, I can attest that these are kids, like all kids, striving for acceptance, understandings, and making their place in the world. Nothing more, nothing less. These are young people who want to go to class, read books, gain knowledge of subject material, play sports, enjoy friendships, use the bathroom, and pursue their dreams in a safe and nurturing environment. Just like all kids, and just like all parents want for their kids. The recent policy directive from VDOE regarding the treatment of transgender students fails these kids. Please stand firm with our current state and federally compliant policy. I was raised to believe that I am no better nor more deserving than anyone else. Indeed, that I am blessed beyond measure by the abundance within my life. Taught that if my beliefs and actions harm others, that I need to reevaluate those beliefs, make amends for harms done, and modify my behavior. Folks, it is well past high time that we stop bludgeoning one another over our differences, real and perceived, and with great care undertake the uncomfortable and difficult discussions about all things that we allow to separate us as we aspire to create a more perfect union. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan. Next up is Carla Haas. After Ms. Haas is Chris Thomas.
Thank you. I'm Carola Haas from Reiner, Virginia. I first wanted to say I'm so excited about bids for the Christiansburg High School, and I really appreciate all that you all have done to get us there. It is such a needed addition to our community, so I'm really excited that's going forward. And secondly, I'd just like to say that, you know, for the folks whose religious beliefs are steeped in intolerance, you know, however you can navigate that in your own family, in your own community, I wish you luck. But it's not something to bring into our schools. You know, there are many people who have deeply held religious beliefs against any medical treatment whatsoever, right? But I wouldn't come here as a member of that community saying any athlete who's ever gone to a doctor should not be allowed to compete with our students because it's an unfair advantage. It wasn't their God-given nature. If they'd had, you know, a broken leg set, or if they took medication, or if they wore glasses, right? You know, we all modify our bodies in ways that with our families and with our medical care, we think makes sense for us. So I hope that we won't demonize people for getting the care and the respect that they need. And I hope that we won't take steps like I just read in the newspaper about Botetourt County. They made it illegal for high school students to go to the public library, that every child has to have a parent with them to go to the library, that you couldn't study after school, you couldn't do your research for your paper on the weekend unless one of your parents goes in there. And so, you know, I mean, maybe there are some parents that feel so incapable of raising their own children that they need community support. And we have community support, right? There's social services for that if you need that. But I think most of us don't want to go that way, right? That we have to recognize that people are creating these kind of fears in order to destroy our public schools because they want to take taxpayer money to fund their private businesses. So I hope that people can, think about what it is that you really want. What do you really want for your family, for your kids? And how can you do that in a way without denying the rights of other families who might want different things? That a public school is for public benefit, and we should all be able to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Haas. Next up is Chris Thomas, and after that is Courtney Roberts.
Members of the board, I'd like to remind you of a little history. Back when this board was considering the adoption of then Governor Northam's model policies for transgender students, my friends on the right stood up here and wrung their hands about the possibility that their daughters might be asked to use the same restroom as a transgender girl. That is to say, a person with a penis. Your policy allowed them to opt.
Excuse me for a sec, Mr. Thomas, sorry. Can we reset the clock?
We're having a technical issue.
Okay,
The time on my clock that he had started so that I could keep track of the 3 minutes.
I promise it's 3 minutes.
We were taking care of it, I promise.
I'll let me know then.
That is to say, a person with a penis. Your policy allowed them to opt for a private, non-gendered bathroom, but they objected anyway. Most of the objections centered around the fears of an on-campus sexual assault or rape. And I understand this concern. As the father myself, it's hard not to worry about such things. But I'm not naive enough to imagine that someone who would force themselves on my child would be deterred by a bathroom sign that says, biological girls only. I mean, let's really unpack this argument. We're taking it as given that half of our students are would-be sexual predators willing to commit a violent rape if the opportunity presented itself, but are somehow unable to break the plane of the women's room without an invitation. We are still talking about rapists, right, and not vampires? In any case, my friends on the right predicted a rash of sexual violence and rape and fire and brimstone, rain of toads, all the usual stuff, and you'll note that really none of that has come to pass. I mean, we've seen some families up here in front of this board complaining about sexual assault or sexual harassment in our schools, but to a person, those complaints have been about cisgender students. Not a single one has had any problem with a transgender student in a bathroom aligning with their gender identity. Not one. But you don't see Moms for Liberty up here eating crow. You don't see the leadership of our local Republican Party admitting that their doomsaying was nonsense. Instead, you see them, and you saw them at this board's last meeting, doubling down on their discredited fear-mongering and lamenting that the MCPS board has caved to the LGBTQ agenda by, and I know this will be hard to believe, including single-stall bathrooms in the Christiansburg High School renovation. You know, single-stall bathrooms. Bathrooms where your daughter will never have to use the restroom with someone of a different gender than her because she'll be alone in there. Bathrooms where it's impossible to sexually assault another student because there's not room for two people. Bathrooms where students can't be harassed, photographed, bullied, beaten, or mistreated in any way because they don't have to share them with anyone. Members of the board, I know you're under a lot of pressure from a lot of people who are asking you to roll back transgender protections, and I know they're all predicting the usual: rape, sexual assault, maybe even a rain of toads. But I want you to remember that we've been here before. You worked hard to create a policy and even build a school so that no one would have to share a bathroom with anyone who made them uncomfortable. And they stood up here and condemned you for it. As Miss Franklin said, in the 1950s, it wasn't about the water fountains. And today, it's not about the bathrooms.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. And next up is Courtney Roberts.
May I have just a minute, Mr. Chewbacca?
Sure.
Let's get this timer reset so that everybody can see. All right, we should be good to go. Thank you for your patience.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, members of the board, Superintendent. I'm Courtney Roberts. I have children in the Blacksburg thread of schools here in Montgomery County, and I can quote scripture too. The most pervasive and motivating scripture that I rely on in my day-to-day living is from Micah 6:8. The Lord has shown you what is good, and what does he require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your Lord. As I try to practice that in my own life, I find it very rewarding to participate in my local church. I've been a Sunday school teacher for the Blacksburg Presbyterian Church Youth Group for the past year. I helped out with my children's Sunday school classes before that. I've helped out in the pre-K room even. Oh my goodness. And a chill goes down my spine when I think about what I hear being suggested and at times even outright stated, that for some reason all of these scriptures and all these beautiful passages, I love Micah 6:8, should be somehow guiding you in making your decisions and what you impose in our schools. These schools are for everyone. We are not a theocracy. We see theocracies in other parts of the world that are doing terrible things to education for parts of their citizenry. There are whole halves of society in Afghanistan who do not get an education at all because of religious beliefs. Their religious beliefs, and frankly, my religious beliefs, have no place here. You are to be guided by what is best for the students. And what is best for the students is that everyone feels safe and feels comforted and feels welcome when they're receiving their education. I'm asking you to therefore stand firm. Stand firm on your existing policies. Do not adopt the new policy from Governor Youngkin, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. All right, seeing no other speakers signed up, public address is closed. Moving on to consent items. If no one wishes to move an item out of consent, we will consider those items approved. And then on to financial reports, payment of the bills. Do I have a motion to approve the payment of the bills from the 22-23 fiscal year as presented?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Drake, would you please call the roll?
I need just 1 second.
Okay.
I've got to add Ms. Graham back into the meeting. There we go. Thank you for your patience. Ms. Bond? Yes. Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the July payment of bills as presented?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Drake, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Do I have a motion to approve the August payment of the bills as presented?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Drake, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next, on to our business meeting. We'll start with a report from the superintendent. Dr. Reagan, the floor is yours.
All righty. Thank you, Board Chair Chewbacca. It feels like it's been a long time since we've been here, so it's nice to be back. Start out with some good news, Christiansburg High School addition. We opened up the bids last week, and we're happy to report that the numbers came in as we anticipated, somewhere within our budget area. Right now, we're going to share that with the school board in our closed session and work towards awarding that bid as soon as we have our discussions and moving forward. But we're really happy with the result and continue to move that project forward. On another note regarding financial matters, our prescriptions benefits manager, we went out with an RFP to help save our employees some money on the prescription costs. And we did secure somebody that we think is going to save a significant amount of money that will enable us, as we had anticipated and hoped for, to have no increase in our health benefits costs and the premiums for our employees. Initially, we were looking at a 13% increase so we could balance the budget in that area. And I'm happy to report that I think we could do that without having any increase in the premiums costs that are paid by our employees. So kudos to Dr. Whitaker and the finance team for working hard on that and coordinating those efforts. There will be no reduction in the coverage that we provide or the medications or the availability of pharmacies, and we're really happy about that and working through that process, and that's a big benefit for our employees. Regarding the model policies that were released by the DOE on July 18th, they're currently in review right now, and if there's any changes or modifications that we need to make, we will present them to the board for discussion and evaluation. At the time being, our current policies are in effect and in place, and I would reiterate what some people have said. As a school superintendent, I'm committed to creating a school environment where all children feel valued, comfortable, and able to learn in an environment where they can be comfortable. And I will not deviate on that regardless. Our new website, I think people should be happy to see it out there. It's very user-friendly. It looks more modern and updated for me, so it's really interesting as we get to learn it and the new aspects of it and how to access information. I think you'll find it's much more user-friendly, and we'll continue to upgrade and add more information as we transition some information from what was on our old website to our new one. And kudos to Ms. Brenda Drake and Ms. Morgan Woods, who played a key role in facilitating that and trying to bring it to fruition, so thank you. Hard to believe, August 16th, our students return. Every year, summer seems to get faster and faster, but we're working rapidly and quickly and expeditiously, and I'm saying too many adverbs there. But anyway, we're working really hard to make sure the schools are up to muster and they're cleaned and prepared for our students. And kudos to our maintenance crew, our custodial crew, and to Robbie Jones in coordinating those efforts so that on August 16th, we'll have clean schools for our students to return to, that will have learning environments that are conducive for our staff and students. We also, upon reflection, I think I presented something in May regarding providing additional services for our students in regards to mental health. One of the survey items that came out repeatedly as a result of some of the COVID issues and just ongoing societal issues is that our students need more support in the area of mental health. And after we were going to award that contract for some of those ESSER monies to an outside vendor, we went back and we did an RFP, and we're happy to report that the New River Valley Community Services is going to get that contract. So a community-based organization is going to be able to provide those supportive services, and we're working on the parameters of that right now with our purchasing agent, Miss Angie Bland, so we're happy about that as well. And the last thing I just want to say is the JLARC put out a report on school funding and recommendations. It's kind of a lengthy report, but it's worth reading if you get a chance. It talks about how the Commonwealth funds our public education and compares that to other states throughout the union. I think you'll find it interesting, and I think the recommendations are something that over time we should look at and maybe advocating for with our legislators. I think that's all I have, Board Chair Chewbacca. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bragan. Next on the agenda is student school board representatives. These representatives are approved each year, and we have a list in front of us in board docs that represents the students who applied and were selected by their principals to serve with our board this coming school year. These students will receive training at the August 15th school board meeting. So do I have a motion to approve the student school board representatives as Alexandra Jobst from Auburn High School, Lishu Wang from Blacksburg High School, Jomanna Amin from Christiansburg High School, and Naomi Ramos Mendoza from Eastern Montgomery High School?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion, board? I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, excited to meet the new crowd.
Yeah. I feel like every year the student representatives become a little more vocal and a little more participatory in our meetings, and so that's good. It's a good trend to see. So, all right, when you're ready.
Ms. Bond? Ms. Franklin? Ms. Graham?
Yeah.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton? Yes. Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Next, the annual school crisis plans were sent to us via email, and tonight we're asked to certify those plans are complete. Do I have a motion to certify the completion of the school crisis plans?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion, board? All right, Ms. Drake, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin? Yes. Ms. Graham?
Yeah.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton? Yes. Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. Next item, 22-23 year-end reports and carryover funds. Dr. Bragan, you want to give us a little information about this one?
Sorry about that. At this point, we were going to ask Ms. Miano to come up and talk about that.
apologize, I did not prepare anything, but I am available for questions. The biggest thing, I think, is the noting that we're transferring some of the funds to the health insurance fund. I believe Dr. Bragan had mentioned that at the end of last year. The other note is that the Patron grant is going to be moved into a different fund instead of into the school operating fund.
Okay.
Questions?
How about explaining what the carryovers are? What are we moving over those funds that were in the middle of this year? We didn't pay all those out, the POs. Want to explain that a little bit?
That's the next one, the encumbrances.
All right.
The encumbrances are just the commitments we have to make purchases before the end of the year, and the invoices didn't come in. So we pay for those in the next fiscal year with the carried over POs.
And then as far as the carryover funds, what are the I don't have this up in front of me. Does the carryover funds, wasn't there something about the health insurance on that? Is it itemized out for us?
It is. It's listed
Okay.
on there separately. It was about $997,000.
Okay.
So what we had to do is I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but there's a small portion that we got in additional revenue that we had not anticipated receiving. We have some expenditures that we did not spend of part of our appropriation. So those numbers added together equal what our total carryover is. A lot of that is grants that we received. For example, there's a $125,000 grant on there. We received it on June 29th. We clearly can't spend that before June 30th, so that's one of the grants that's getting carried over. The same thing applies for the Medicaid and some of the workforce grants.
Okay.
And the big one we were looking at was for it to fund the health reserve account, which over the course of this year, we depleted some of those funds, so we wanted to, any carryover that we could put into that, we would. We were thinking it'd be around $1 million, and as it turns out, it's $941. So good work.
Okay.
So it's nice to see that these were grants that were carried over, because when folks see $2 million, almost $3 million, they're like, so you didn't use the money you had, but that's not the case. So it's nice to see that it was coming from grants and not that we didn't use all the money that we needed.
Any other questions?
Okay. Do I have a motion to authorize the superintendent to submit the supplemental appropriation request to the Board of Supervisors for carryover funds?
So moved.
Second.
All right. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, Board? Ms. Drake, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Mr. Trabaka?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. And then the next item, of course, is the 22-23 encumbrances. Is there anything else that needs to be said about those? Dr. Brady?
I believe that's what we explained when
Okay.
I
All
asked
right.
that question at a turn, and
Okay.
Ms. Miano did
No problem.
a very
Yep.
good job of it.
Good. All right, so do I have a motion to approve the letter to the Board of Supervisors for a reappropriation of open POs from the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 to the fiscal year 23-24 for school operating and nutrition budgets?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion, Board? All right, Ms. Drake, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond? Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Mr. Trabaka?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. All right, next up, we have a presentation, community eligibility provision.
Yeah, at this point, I would ask Ms. Michelle Knott to come up. Knotts, I'm sorry, not to be confused with Danny Knott. Our supervisor for school nutrition is going to explain to us our CEP program.
Thank you. Chair Chewbacca, board members, Dr. Bragan, good evening. I'd like to provide an overview for you of what is called the Community Eligibility Provision, otherwise known as CEP. So the requirements for qualification for CEP is individual schools must have at least 40% students that are directly certified for free meals, meaning they did not fill out an application. They're directly certified through the DC list, SNAP, or TANF. So if a school qualifies for CEP, all students receive free breakfast and free lunch each and every day. Applications are no longer required at the CEP schools. There, of course, is no meal debt that would be carried in CEP schools. And claim reimbursement, it becomes very simplified, much more streamlined process for claim reimbursement. Most CEP programs see an increase in participation and in revenue. The qualifying schools for the 2023-2024 school year is East Montgomery Elementary School, East Montgomery High School, Shawsville Middle School, Price's Fork Elementary School, Falling Branch, and Montgomery Central. And what I hope you see in front of you, I hope you're able to see that, is this is a worksheet that's provided to us by the VDOE. I worked closely with our representatives, and this is an estimate. And what we did is we looked at all of last year and took total meals, and we, as you can see, we grouped all of the 6 schools together, and we kind of did a comparison and looked at what traditional claiming provided, and then we compared that to what CEP claiming could provide. So on this workbook, at the top, we are anticipating an increase of breakfast of 11% and an increase in lunch at 10%. And quite frankly, honestly, I think that's pretty modest, and we can certainly do more than that. On the top portion on the left is our breakfast in the traditional claiming method, and on the right, it shows our total meals claimed. And then underneath, it shows, as I mentioned, the CEP claiming method. Ultimately, it comes down to a side-by-side, and you see the numbers there in front of you, that the estimated increase in reimbursements, if we use the CEP method, is an increase of roughly $36,500. So what are the next steps? Communication is absolutely imperative here, so we have already steps in place to make sure that we over-communicate to the households and the community about the 6 CEP schools. Program support from our administrators, our teachers, our principals, because the true key success to CEP is participation. There seems to be I think a misnomer out there that a CEP school just makes money because everybody eats for free, and that indeed is not true. Only a certain percentage of children, which is called the ISP, Identified Student Percentage, those meals are what is reimbursed at the free rate. Everything else is reimbursed at the paid rate. So there's definitely some risk here, and that's why we did our homework with the worksheets, because just because you may qualify for 40, you may have 40% or a little bit more, 41, 42, 43. Yes, you may qualify to get into the program, but it may not make financial sense when you work through those numbers. And if obviously there's a loss in the program, it would need to be funded through the general fund, I'm assuming. So I'm wildly excited about this program. I know Dr. Bregan is a huge supporter of this program, such as my whole team. Honestly, it's new territory for me because I did not have schools in my past 15 years that qualified to get in this program, but I'm really excited and happy to support it. We're going to do everything we can to just generate that excitement and get the participation needed in these schools. Are there any questions that I might be able to answer at this time?
So what are the factors that would cause the participation to increase? Why would that be?
Factors to cause it to increase? Mm-hmm. Well, no matter what program you're on, National School Lunch Program, CEP, food is food, and quality has got to be first and foremost. It doesn't matter if you're giving it away for free. Kids, all of us eat with our eyes. So it's very important that those standards are withheld, and I'm working very closely with TNG, our contracted food service company, to make sure that none of that is diminished by any means. So it's the quality of food, nutritious food, fresh food. With CEP, through the guidance again with VDOE, it's been recommended to streamline the menu a little bit and really focus on what the items that the kids love, so that it continues to help to ensure that that participation is there. And we may want to look at some different models too, in the sense where maybe there's going to be some schools where we can introduce some carts and do grab and go carts as the children might be coming in the entrance ways. Just looking at it in a different way to create opportunity and maximize participation.
So as far as getting the information to community, are you reaching out to groups and organizations in the community to help, especially in the areas in the schools that would be that are qualified?
Right now, the plan is with the letters that are going out. We're going to have flyers at the open house, of course, announcements and the district website. But I love that idea, and I can work with my team. I can work with Brenda to identify those groups that we can even just drop off flyers to try to get that word out. Thank you.
Just on that, Ms. Franklin, we're working closely with Ms. Drake on our communication. It's going to be a team approach and strategic, because we do think it's really important to get that information out there for two reasons. One, we want to make sure all our families are aware of what's available, and this is a great effort to reduce any type of food insecurity we may have for our children. And we're taking it at a district level communication, all on, using all the methods we can. So any areas you think we should hit, we will definitely do that to get that information out there. It's really important. And if I could ask you a question, Mrs. Knotts. The participation rate for our meals on average across those 6 schools right now is about 55%. Is that
Correct.
accurate? And the number that we have to make in order to say that we wouldn't lose any money is about 54%,
About, correct.
So I would not envision us reducing our participation rate when we make all the meals totally free. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
They would have to be really bad,
Really bad.
and I don't anticipate that.
We've been there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I would think, because I can remember when I was teaching, that there were parents who did not want to sign up for reduced lunch or free lunch, that just didn't feel comfortable in filling out the form. And the fact that you don't have to fill out an application now, I think, is a real benefit and takes that stigma away.
I mean, yeah, I think every article I read on this topic during and after the pandemic, when all of our schools and many other schools across the country went to full free lunches, was incredibly positive. And I guess, so my question, I don't want to cut anybody else off, I'll circle back, but my question is, if, let's say that we do have a situation where it goes down to 52% or 50% or 45%. So we have to then provide a little bit of funding. I'm assuming it's not a step function, right? It's, if you're at 53%, you might have to put a little bit of money, a tiny bit of money in, right?
It's possible, yes.
And if you're at, 20%, you'd have to put a lot more money into it, probably.
Correct.
So with that in mind, I mean, I honestly, so let me ask you, what's the duration of this program from we apply to be part of it? Do we apply for 3 years, for 1 year? How often can we change our?
You apply for a 4-year period, but you
Okay.
have the option to terminate the program if we so choose to after any given year.
Okay.
Within that 4-year period.
What if where I'm going with this, I'd love to see it expanded, actually. And,
Okay.
And obviously I haven't dug down into the numbers the way that you guys have, but I think, it would be interesting to know, because one of the things that we had one parent who was real passionate about this, and I'm glad she reached out to us and was pushing for this too. But one of the things I think that she said is that the state said you can group schools together. So you can take 2 or 3 of these schools and then group them with maybe a different school, let's say in Christiansburg or in Blacksburg or whatever, that's not yet part of the program. Now, I guess the reason we wouldn't want to do that is because maybe you would fall below the participation rate, maybe not, but by how much, I guess, would be my question. In other words, if we could do this district-wide or almost district-wide for you know, a few $1,000s. Like, my goodness, like why wouldn't we? So I guess I'm okay with where we are right now, just moving forward, this being the first year that we're doing it, but.
May I clarify?
Okay.
If
yeah,
I
sure.
could.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we did, Chair Chewbacca. We grouped the 6 schools together.
Okay.
The reason being is, you know, we had a total of 8 schools in our district qualify by just being over the 40% free and reduced. We took the highest 3 schools, and when I say highest, I mean by the ISP, the Identified Student Percentage, and we grouped it with the next 3 below that to get us to, so what it does is it will average the ISP, because it's looking at it as a whole now, these 3 schools.
Yes.
And we group that together to get it right where we feel we can teeter a little bit, but we're still going to be okay. So that is exactly what we're doing. And it is our goal too that we can get through this year and say this worked out exactly how we were expecting. This didn't work out so much, and we're going to learn from it. And hopefully we'll be able to continue to add maybe another school.
Can you make adjustments like in a year or 2, or do you have to wait until the 4 years is up?
No, you can make an adjustment after 1
all right,
year.
So that's
Yes.
great. So I mean, I
Yes.
think, you know, I'll be off the board probably the next time, but I mean, I think you did exactly the right thing, given the, you know, your inputs were basically don't lose any money, right? But
Yes.
I would challenge the board to think about, what would we pay, you know? If the inputs to your equation were, you know, if we can get 3 or, you know, 4 more schools, whatever, you know, $5,000, $10,000, whatever the number is per school to get to free lunch for those 2, then you might group things a little bit differently than when you go back to the drawing board. So anyway, I think it's something for us to think about. I'm sorry, I didn't mean, did anybody else have anything to add? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
Ms.
you.
Knott. All right, next up, staffing update. Ms.
For
Widener.
this, we have our interim HR director, Dr. Amanda Widener.
Good evening, Chair Tabaka, school board members, Dr. Reagan. Our school leaders and our HR office have been busy this summer engaging in the hiring process. And I want to give you an update at this time of where we are as we get ready to start the school year. I do want to point out the presentation that you see on the screen does have some updates. So I have updated some of that data compared to the presentation that was shared with you last week. So there are some minor adjustments. The first chart there is a comparison just to show where we are today versus where we were about a year ago. So you can see the vacancies that were listed a year ago. And then you can see the vacancies that we have now. I have provided some clarification about those vacancies so you can see that while some of them are still officially vacant, we are in the hiring process for a large number of those vacant positions. And then I've broken it down in more detail for you so that you can see specifically where each vacancy is. So these are our administrator vacancies. I did want to point out, because I've not reported to you since early on in the summer, but in the summer we did have some vacancies that we have filled. So you'll notice that our coordinator of special education, our director of secondary education, and our principal positions at both CHS and CMS are filled. I think you're aware of that, but I just wanted to point those out. And then we are in the process of either in the hiring process or accepting applications for 4 other administrator positions. In elementary, we have those positions listed. So currently we do have 2 classroom teacher positions. There were 3 listed last week, so 2 of those were filled, and then unfortunately we did get a resignation today, but we do have 1 candidate in the process there. We have an open reading specialist, library media specialist, 2 school counselors, 4 special education teachers, and a speech language pathologist. But again, some of those positions we are in the hiring process for. And that reading specialist position, which can be a hard to fill position, we do have a substitute who's fully licensed who will be starting the year at that school while we continue to look for qualified individuals. At the secondary level, you can see the specific positions that we have open. And I will note that we've made a lot of progress over the last few days in secondary. I think the information that was shared with you last week showed 14 vacancies. So we've reduced that number considerably, and we are also in the hiring process with many of the open positions that are listed. That's the certified side. So as we move on to our classified staff positions, in facilities, we continue to have 2 HVAC positions open. Those are hard to fill. 2 grounds maintenance, but 1 candidate is in the hiring process there. We're looking for a computer technician, and then we do have a number of bus driver positions open, but there are 2 candidates in the hiring process for those 6.5 positions. And I'm in touch with Mr. Walters on a regular basis, and he has assured me that even with these vacancies, which we're working hard to fill before the start of school, we are operational at this time because of the number of substitute drivers we have. Continuing on with classified employee vacancies, we've got a couple of administrative assistant positions, 2 floater nurse positions, which we are in the hiring process for, 3 instructional aid positions, a preschool aide, a virtual lab aide, and a number of special education aid positions. We'll be working diligently over the next few weeks to fill as many of those as we can, and we currently do have 5 candidates in the hiring process there. And then we also have an open music therapist position. We have a number of lunch recess aid positions that we're filling, and again, I know a number of our principals have been actively looking at candidates, and there are 2 in the hiring process right now. 2 lunch aid, 1 recess aid position, 5 custodian positions with 2 candidates in the hiring process at the elementary level, and then we do have a larger number of custodians at the secondary level. Part of the reason for the higher number of custodian positions is that with the budget that was approved, we did add 4 additional custodian positions. So because of the increased square footage at CES, at CPS, at BES, and then Blacksburg High School was also given an additional position. So we had 4 new open positions to work on filling in the summer in addition to our vacancies. But again, I'm in touch regularly with Robbie Jones, our custodial manager, and she looks at applications every day, and she's interviewing every week. So again, we're working diligently to try and fill those. As Dr. Bragan indicated, our teams have been working hard to make sure that our schools are clean and ready to meet our students. And then just a quick update on where we are with substitutes. So we have deactivated substitutes who were not active last year. So currently we do have 360 active substitutes. 25 of those are new substitutes that we brought to orientation this summer. And then we do have, of those 360, 22 are RIHIP substitutes, meaning those are retired teachers who are working for us as substitutes. So what questions can I answer regarding staffing?
So bus drivers, how much lower would we have to go, or would there have to be, before our technicians would be back on the road?
So I know last year we got to a point where we had about 10 openings, and at that point our technicians were driving on a regular basis.
So
again, it depends on the availability of substitute drivers. That plays a role. We do have a number of regular substitute drivers, so it depends on their availability. So that number can fluctuate day to day, But with this many vacancies, I mean, there is the possibility there could be days that we're tapping into the use of those individuals as drivers.
Okay, thank you. And as far as our custodians, glad we added those new positions, but then we have to fill them. So I know there was some discussion about the hours, especially for folks working in the evenings. Has that gone anywhere?
It has. So during the summer hours, we shift everybody. They're working the 410s mostly during the day. We do have a number of custodians who are working overtime this summer to make up for the shortages. So when the school year starts and we go back to needing to have evening custodians, we can't move our entire evening staff earlier because of things that happen in the buildings at night, particularly in our secondary buildings. The buildings run in some cases with sporting events until 9, 10 o'clock at night. But we are able, particularly in buildings where there's numerous custodians, we are able, and Robbie's working on this in terms of rotating it, where we can provide an opportunity for an evening custodian every week to shift their hours earlier. So we are working to shift some of those hours, but it's not, we can't be operational and move all of our evening custodians to a starting time of, let's say, noon.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, board? I'll say that I like that second slide. I like seeing the comparison in where we were, a year ago. I feel like it gives us a little bit better picture of, we're doing better than we were or we're doing worse. These numbers are kind of small. I mean, when you look at the percentage of total vacancies, both last year and this year, compared to the number, like for example, compared to the number of certified staff that we have, anyway, those are less than 1%. Now we're at maybe 1.5%, if I'm doing my math right. So I don't know if that's enough to, I don't know if that's in the noise or if that's enough to see a trend there, but I am seeing, more vacancies now. Looking at the classified, it seems like a higher percentage and it seems even. It'd be interesting to see year after year how this looks, because like the question I have is, are we closing the gap on, were the classified numbers going up over the last few years and now at least they've stabilized, or, is this still, do we still have an issue here? So, I mean, I think would help us for figuring out next year's budget where we need to, focus some resources, right? So, but I appreciate that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Ryder. All right, let's see, next on the agenda is the school board retreat. So we've just wanted to put something on the agenda to be able to discuss this. We've tried twice now, I think, to have a school board retreat, once this summer board and again this fall, and we've thrown out lots of dates, and I don't think we're finding at least overnight weekend dates that work. And so, as I have emailed to you all individually, that I think we need to either compromise on how we do the retreat or possibly consider skipping the retreat this fall and letting the new board in the spring attempt to do one. But it's whatever the board's will. I've thrown out some ideas, so I'll let you guys go ahead and discuss. Who wants to go first? Don't make me call on you. Go ahead, Dana.
So I think originally I had shared with you, Chair Chewbacca, that I felt like even though I know we're getting to the end of a year and a term as far as an election. However, I still feel like we have important issues that we need to discuss and deal with as a board. I know everybody's super busy. I totally understand that, and I do realize that there are some fiscal, issues going on as well. So, and then I think I came back to you after talking to some other people that had maybe suggested that since we are so close to the end of the year, and we do have possibly 3 new board members coming on, that we wait. So I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of in the middle right now. And you know me, it's hard for me to make a decision, but I'm kind of torn. I feel like there are things that we should meet about and discuss just because we've just had so much going on and more coming. A school year's getting ready to start. We still have other issues we need to deal with. I think it's good when we can get together as a group as a retreat because I think it's a different setting for us, and I think we can talk and we can kind of brainstorm and get things done that we maybe can't do in the short time that we have a meeting or a closed session. So I would still technically be for trying to maybe find time for a retreat. I understand if other people don't have time for it, maybe we could figure out a way to shorten it or something that would be more desirable or applicable to people's schedule. But so far right now, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick. I definitely would love to see us do a retreat with this board before the elections, regardless of what happens. At least 3 people we know are leaving, and a lot of knowledge and experience there. I think there's value in us kind of getting together and working through some of those issues and just enjoying that time together. So I'm definitely, all these options that you presented, I mean, I can make any of them work. So I don't know what the obstacles were for other folks, but let's try to figure it out.
Yeah, what are the basic obstacles? Is it the weekend?
I think it's just the will of the board, you know? I mean, I think originally,
Not everybody wants to have a retreat, you mean?
well, no. I mean, so I threw out, when we were having trouble initially getting dates, I think I threw out and I even volunteered myself, look, if I'm the only one that's not available, y'all go ahead and have the retreat without me. So obviously we could have a retreat, you know, something has to give. So one thing is you could have a retreat with 6 board members instead of 7. I know that's not optimal. The other option I think that I threw out was that, and Dana mentioned it, we could shorten, instead of doing an overnight retreat, we could try for only one of the days, although I'm not sure that would buy us anything because I'm assuming people are gone for the weekend. So the other thing I threw out is we could do a couple of evening retreats where we're not doing anything overnight. We just, you know, get together someplace, maybe a little further drive away, but not too far away, 1 or 2 evenings in the middle of the week.
What about a day? Is there a day where everybody could maybe take one day? No. You have Tuesdays. Tuesdays. Well, yeah, obviously, I'm just saying you take off a day from work if I had to. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, obviously harder for people to do so, but if it's the will of the board,
kinda
we can, we can throw that out as an option as well, so. So, I mean.
Is it just finding a different weekend? Is it just that the weekend,
I think
just nobody, there was no way of getting 6 people?
7
7
people.
together
I think almost every weekend between the end of August and the end of October were thrown out. So at that point, I mean, you get into November, you're already into, elections, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, other holiday season, so.
What if we did just Friday night and all day Saturday and not leave on Saturday?
I think that's what it was going to be anyway. It was just going to be a single overnight. So I think that's already been tried, I guess. So I understand what.
Well, I'm going to just say one thing that's kind of sad is that I've been on the board now. This will be my 4th year, and I've had 1 retreat in 4 years. That's very unfortunate. We only had the 1 last year. Other than that, they were we had daytime meetings, and they weren't really retreats. I did not call that a retreat. We sat in the ops center like it was a board meeting. So the fact that we can only find once every 4 years, 7 people can't figure out how to all meet together.
There was the slight thing, COVID, in the middle there that probably affected things, but.
I know.
Jamie, did you want to say
I
something?
was just going to say, for me, you just have to overlook, I know I didn't answer, but July just had a couple deaths in the family and 2 people out of work, and to be honest, last thing I did was check my email a whole lot. I'm going to be honest. But I really, other than this weekend, I've got plans. I don't have any plans. I don't go and do, because I can't hardly take off. That's my thing, just because I, like every other business out there, shorthanded and, get in there at 8 and don't stop till 6. But I've always been willing to do like a half a day on Friday and take off a Saturday, because I work Saturdays. And so, unlike a lot of people, but I am willing to sacrifice that, and I don't have any plans. So mine is clear, and it usually always is. I'm usually not the one that has a problem. So other than
Yeah, and
taking
I don't
off all
think
day.
that's, I mean, I don't want to, it's okay. I will say right now that it's okay that we all are busy. I think it's okay. You guys know my feelings on that. I think it's great that we have board members that have, that have kids, that have active lives, that are, and if we had, I don't think any of us are retired, are we? But if we did have people who are retired, that would be okay too.
I wish.
But, the question at hand is, how do we move forward? And, the idea of a day off, and Jamie just said half a day off, I mean, that I think would be a lot easier to do, maybe a half a day along with an evening or something like that. I would even do that 2 days in a row if we needed to, kind of get more of the retreat feel. I don't, something has to give. So we're not going to have an overnight retreat probably, but, I'm for trying to find the next best thing, because I do think that there are some things that we would benefit us to get together and discuss.
I know not everybody goes, and it is November, and I know not everybody goes to the state conference. But some of us do.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if that might be an opportunity that some would say, hey, this year it's going to work out for me. Could we go a night earlier and, take advantage of that time, do dinner, have a meeting, stay overnight, meet, because the conference usually doesn't start till, you'll have a general session one day, but then it doesn't start till Thursday.
Yeah.
And we're usually there Wednesday. It's just a thought. I'm not saying that we should or we shouldn't, or everybody goes, but I know there have been years that we've had a good turnout and it has helped people to go, but
I've never seen all 7 of us.
we're already doing it. If we're planning on doing it this year, if we say, hey, no, we don't, it's not in our budget, I'm fine with that. I'm happy-go-lucky.
I think it's just that I think it's unlikely that we'd get all seven of us, but we can, I'm certainly willing to go there, and I don't know that that's even an either or. We could do that. I think it's a great idea. I think we could do that anyway.
We're already planning it. It's,
Brenda, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the breakfast prior to the conference, isn't that always a set date with the political figures?
Legislative breakfast?
The legislative breakfast. So I don't know if that would interfere with us trying to do something earlier, because we're technically supposed to be talking with them, or the ones that can come.
we've changed that in the past, haven't we? I believe, yeah, many times.
Yeah, it's a placeholder meeting, but often once the time comes, we historically have tried to meet the desire of the legislators, if they are willing to meet with us. So I think there are a lot of components at play for that legislative meeting.
Okay, so Marty, do you want to say anything?
I like the idea that that Jamie had, and just like Linwood, I'm pretty flexible for days and stuff. It really just depends on what we pick.
So I'm hearing a consensus around going for at least a half day, maybe full day retreat, or some alternative schedule there in the middle of the week. So maybe we'll throw something out to the board and see where that consensus is, and if we should have a much easier time finding one weekday. So I don't want to cut off conversation, but it seems like we can move forward in that direction. Does anybody else have anything else they want to add to that before we move on?
I'm all for that, if it does mean that more people are able to attend, because I do think it's important that all of us be there if we can. And if we can't, we certainly understand. I know that there are also other things that we do that surround the retreat. I know one day, again, I think Sue, who said it didn't really feel like a retreat. That kind of cuts out on our, I know we have business to discuss, but a retreat is also supposed to be part of a bonding time, and for us to spend together as a board. And I think that we just grow with that personally, and we kind of feed off each other, and good things come out of it. So I'd be for the day, but it kind of concerns me that I don't know if it's enough time.
Let's see what we can
get out of the retreat.
Let's see what we can pull together.
What we want to try to get out of the retreat, right?
Just throwing out an option, but if we did a retreat in November, you'd actually could have your new people too.
Yeah.
It'd be after Election Day.
Yeah, and we often invite the new board members, I think, on VSBA, right?
I went to the VSBA.
So maybe join
when
those
I
two
got
ideas together.
elected.
Yeah, okay. Well, feel free to reach out to me. I think there's some things that we can do, even if it's shortened, to get the same effect, or at least close to it. All right, next item on the agenda is board board meeting procedures. So this is something that Penny brought this up last time under new business. It's something that I think has come up in the past as well, so I think it's a good time to talk about it. And I think this is the just figuring out within our own agendas how to have sections, how to basically have an opportunity for board members to talk about maybe something that's already been talked about, kind of maybe a catch-all, for certain things, without having to bring something up under new business. I think we used to do it under unfinished business, is where we would bring up, anything, maybe if we'd already voted on something and somebody didn't want to bring it up again for discussion or a vote, but just wanted to say something about it, that was the opportunity to say something. If, some stuff had been said in public comment, maybe that somebody wanted to make a comment on, that was the time to do it. And then for a while, we had board reports. We kind of got rid of those. I guess, I don't know if maybe they were dragging on a little bit too much or something, but, the question is basically how do we want to move forward? According to Robert's rules, doing what we were doing under unfinished business is not what unfinished business is for, but there are meetings and we can put an old business, or we can bring back a board reports type of thing or something like that. So, this is something else I've been thinking about. I do think that we should, support doing something like this. I do think that if we do, that we should probably have it be timed or somewhat, controlled a little bit, by the chair to just kind of keep things moving. So I'll open it up to you guys for discussion on that.
Okay, so the issue has been, and it's come from several board members, that under unfinished business, unless it was something that was carried over from the previous agenda, then it couldn't be discussed. But if it's old business and someone wants to bring something up again that has not been discussed in the previous meeting, can that happen? By adding another category as old business. This is not about board reports. This is about business of the board.
If you all can talk, and I
Mr.
can
Ake.
just have a few minutes to research that,
Oh, sure.
And-
Yeah.
I'll chime back in.
And I agree with you, Ms. Franklin, that should be the focus. Anyone else?
We have to talk amongst ourselves to get
Well,
back to time.
I'm curious to hear what you guys all think about this. I mean, this is our
I was always
opportunity
a
to
little
discuss.
confused as to what, didn't it used to be old business?
I think it was always called unfinished business, but I think we treated it as old business, and that's the
I thought I
problem.
remembered it being old business.
I'm not even sure if old business is something that is, an official part of Robert's rules or something, so.
One of the boards.
Or we can call it something different.
On the churches that I've been on boards of, they had a category called old business, and it was previous topics that needed to be brought back up again. But there was also an opportunity for open discussion in there about other things. It wasn't as constrained as we tend to make our unfinished business, right? So, whether we want to broaden the definition of unfinished business or treat them as two separate things, I think there's value in considering that.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess I would like to understand like an example, and then what we would be looking for an outcome with that. For instance, new business, somebody can bring to the board something they think we need to work on or review or get some more info on. And of course that requires a majority of the board to say, yes, we would like to do that and put it on a future agenda. So if we're creating this new category, what is the purpose of what will be brought up.
So again, from hearing from board members throughout the last several years, is it would be business that has been discussed, and it could have been discussed a year ago, but wasn't discussed at a previous meeting. Something that we wanted more information about, we wanted to go back and revisit because there was no resolution, to be brought up at that meeting to see where we are with that.
And I understand what Marty's concern is on this, and I think it might be something that we have to deal with. One of my, in looking at this, I mean, there's really, anybody from the public can come to us and talk about anything that they want for 3 minutes, right? We as board members do not have the right to talk to each other about anything we want, even if it's limited. And I don't know, for me, that seems, it doesn't seem quite right. There have been times that I have wanted to talk about, an NSBA thing that I went to or something, but we didn't have board reports, so there was no place in the agenda to talk about this. There's been times where maybe we've already, we voted on something, and I don't want to hash it back up. This is what Marty is talking about, bringing it back up for a discussion and a revote. It's nothing like that. I don't want to do that, but maybe I've heard back from the community about something, and I want the board to know that, right? There's
We have the
no place in
announcements
there.
information section. Isn't that what that's for?
I don't think so.
Like you're just saying, reporting about what you did at the NSBA. I mean, that would have been under announcements and information.
I mean, I think we started using it that way because there wasn't any place else, but I don't know that that's what it was meant for.
So it used to be when board members went to a conference or some kind of training and there was information that they wanted to share with the board, then it was just, okay, I have some information. And because it's around a specific time usually with conferences, then it would be put on the agenda so that we could report out, if we chose to do so, on the activities that happened during those meetings or trainings, developments.
There's also not an opportunity to do discussion when you do, technically, when you're doing new business or you're doing an announcements and information. It's not supposed to be a discussion. It's just here's my announcement,
Well,
There's this meeting on this date, we're done,
So.
Isn't that what the agenda, when you want to bring it up, I'm sorry, Penny, I didn't mean to.
No, go ahead.
Like, isn't that what the agenda's for though? So if there's something I want to talk about at the meeting, wouldn't you say I'd like to put something on the agenda to discuss?
Well, and I was going to say, do we think that some of that direction went that way because we had so much on the agendas?
Right.
We just didn't have time for us to talk about, our things that we
Well, that's what happened. I remember when
I hope that we're going back to that maybe now because hopefully that agenda will be lightening up and we can start doing some of the things we used to do. But
Yeah, the meetings were going to midnight.
to midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, the last thing I want to know is what you did
what I
in
did,
Williamsburg. I mean, I could care
right.
less at midnight,
Right. They were
no
kind of,
disrespect.
and
but-
that's kind of because when I was chair, because there was so much going on, and we kind of got away from that because it was just too much on the agenda. I mean, you just had to really pare down the agenda, and really we started paring down even kind of presentations just because it was all becoming so, it was getting really long. Yeah, we had,
But it-
20, 30 people with public address, and so those were long meetings.
Bringing something up during, when we pass the agenda would require a majority vote in order to get it on the agenda. So that's kind of the problem there. If you get into topics that, maybe we're a little bit more divided on, I think the question then becomes, do you want...
But see, I thought that's what new business was for, is you brought up something under new business, and then we voted on it whether we thought the board wanted to hear on an
Sure.
agenda item.
Right.
And as far as like board reports and things like that, that was put on the agenda. Like I said, we didn't do it because of the length of the agendas already, but hopefully maybe we can get back to doing that. But new business is for what you're talking about, the idea of, hey, I would like to put, whether we should all wear green at the next meeting on the board, on the next agenda, is everybody in favor of that?
but like,
Or
but
like
like,
somebody brought something up in public forum and you said, that's,
Right, we need to
I'd
talk
like
about
to
that,
pursue
right.
that a little further.
Business
That's,
Right,
Yeah.
right. So
But
then you get a,
new business is for, I mean, I hear what you guys are saying. You're trying to work around it, but that's not it, right? New business is for, I have this new thing that I want the board to take up at some future meeting where we're going to discuss something, maybe vote on it or whatever. If you just want to reply to something that somebody had said, in old business or something like that, there's not an opportunity to do that. That's all I'm saying. And what Penny said about this is there's a difference between new business that hasn't been brought up before versus old business, which we have talked about before.
okay, so will the same thing with re-putting the board reports back on a certain meeting of the month and just going by the things that we did at the retreats and saying, okay, nobody can yammer on for 5 minutes. It has to be, say what you're going to say in 2 minutes. And I mean, I hear you. I do a little research on some of the things I hear to find out what really, and sometimes I want to make a comment, and sometimes when the meeting goes till 10:30, 11, I think, well, yeah, I ain't making no comment. So it's.
Let me give you an example. I don't know if this is a good example or not. Penny, maybe you want to come up with a better example than this, but before I came on the board, the big topic was the time change, right? And the board voted on that on a pretty narrow majority, right? And then there was all this stuff happening in the community regarding it, right? If those rules had been in place at that time, if our rules had been in place at that time, a narrow majority could have just shut you and others that had concerns about this down. You can't even talk about this publicly. You can't even bring this up, right? Now, I'm not saying
I mean, there's been lots there. So I don't think we've had a real issue with that. I don't understand why we're hashing it now. But maybe I'm wrong.
Penny, you brought it up. Do you want to explain your point of view on that?
Let's talk about the start time issue. So yeah, it was brought up and then it was explained. You can't do anything with it unless this happens, and it has to be the next year or something like that, when the new board convened in January. And finally, that's when it came back. So let me offer this suggestion. So I'm hearing boards members want to have more discussion among ourselves about things we've learned or whatever. So what about if maybe once a quarter in our work session, we come in and meet for a couple of hours early, and we're able to eat some food, so we're enjoying each other, right? And have some conversation about issues, and maybe to keep that to about 2 hours is we put stuff out there and say, okay, we're going to listen to this, or we want to discuss this during this time. And that way it's on a board meeting night, it's not taking too much extra time, but it's giving us some time to, I hate the word, but bond, right?
Come on, Penny.
But just to have some time as board members to have more discussion about things that are not necessarily on the agenda, but,
Just to discuss.
so that's just a suggestion about
It is a good suggestion.
together.
Did you? All right, Miss Drake, I think, finished her.
Thank you for your
Search, yeah.
patience. So Robert's Rules of Order does not have an old business category. Now, right now, your rules of order, you have that in policy. Policy 1-6.4 says that you will observe Robert's Rules of Order. You may adjust that policy to say all kinds of different things. We will observe Robert's Rules of Order with these exceptions, those types of things. Where you have what I heard you talking about, the areas where things were tightened up, it was because we had to do a lot more research in Robert's Rules of Order. And then we would learn, oh my goodness, this isn't how that's supposed to work. We'd have to bring that to the chair, right? And then that would be communicated to you all. So you do have the ability to adjust your rules of order to create exceptions to that general document, right? And of course, the having that separate type of meeting, that would be a different environment completely and would fall in more of a retreat style. I'm not saying it is a retreat, but sort of that retreat style.
Okay. Well, I'm not hearing an overwhelming amount of consensus to change anything now, so I think we can probably allow the next board to figure that out at one of their next retreats.
Way to punt that down the road.
I mean, all right.
So I did make a suggestion that I kind of saw a consensus. Is that something we want to do?
Have to pursue that.
How do we move that forward?
And that's
Next work
basically, I
session.
mean, it still have to be a called meeting, but just with a looser agenda, is that?
And it's not closed session, so it's basically,
Yeah.
people
Still-
can still come.
Right.
People wanted to come and watch us eat and.
It's not a business meeting, it's not a, yeah, I don't know what you call it, but.
I mean, I think I'm all for the idea of, having because I agree with Brenda that it's more of like a retreat idea, right? And I guess that's different than what this topic was, but I'm happy to entertain that thought. If people want to try it, we can try it once a quarter. We can get 1 or 2 tries on it before the end of the year at least, so.
So next board meeting is the 6th.
We can do it
14th?
start it at the next one. We have our next work session.
Is that the will of the board?
Do I need to make a motion?
I'm just looking for nods.
Well, I mean, I like the idea. I just think, I don't know that I'm ready to say, I mean, you guys do what you want. I'm not ready to say, all right, let's do it. Because if we say, yes, we're going to do it, then what we're committing to is starting our meeting at 5 p.m. And that doesn't include any closed session. We often have closed session before our, but
Okay, well then why don't we discuss it at the business meeting? And then if we decide to more discussion, and if we decide that's what we would like to do, we can start it at the September business meeting.
That can. Boy, okay. Let's keep on kicking.
I'm fine with either. It's the will of the board. I would probably want to at least think about it before I just scheduled it for the very next meeting, but, sounds like a good thing for new business. That's just me. I'm just one person. There's 6 others of you out there, so tell me what you'd like to see done and see if we can get a consensus.
I gave my suggestion.
Which was on this idea.
Yeah, I said, why don't we just start at the next meeting? But you said.
It's the next meeting. I got 2 people for the next meeting. Anyone else for the next meeting?
Can
I
really,
say yes.
Okay,
it's fine,
we'll do
either
it for the
way.
next meeting.
We don't have a closed session that prevents us from doing it, yeah, let's do it.
We're going to talk about it at the next.
We're just going to do it.
We'll do it.
Okay. Anything else, board, on this topic? All right. Next is unfinished business. There are no items of unfinished business. New business, are there any items of new business, board? Hearing none, are there any announcements or information? All right. Upcoming school board meeting is online under agenda prep. At this point, we need to go into closed session. So do I have a motion to enter into closed session as authorized by section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia to discuss 1 procurement matter and 3 student matters? It's personnel, right? 3 personnel matters.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Drake, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Bond? Ms. Franklin?
Yes.
Ms. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Ms. Cass?
Yes.
Ms. Parton?
Yes.
Mr. Chewbacca?
Yes.
7 in favor.
Motion carries. We are in closed session, and Marty, somebody will call you.
Dana will call.
Thank you. Dana's calling me.
Yes, ma'am, will do.
Thank you.